some crickets because it's summer and people are out doing things. So don't mind that. I also got this Blue Yeti microphone, and it's going to be a test run because I've never done anything like this before. But I think it'll be fun. I mean, you can pretty much hear everything, I think. Ooh, that's nice. So I thought I would read some creepy stories for my first ASMR go. I thought that I would read from this book instead of deep diving into Reddit or something like that because I don't have a Reddit, and why not use what you have? Be more interesting. Get some book tapping in there. I hope this lighting isn't too abrasive and is calming. I have a ring light and then also these background little twinkly lights, so we'll see how that goes. Ooh. That's Spinal Wreck. Looks like I've never opened a book before. I'm pretty sure you can even hear how clammy my hands are because I'm wearing a hoodie in our unair-conditioned home upstairs in an attic bedroom, which holds a lot more heat than any other room in our house. So like I said, this is my first ASMR video. I've been watching ASMR for years, I think back in high school, and I'm now in my mid-20s. Been an ASMR connoisseur, if you will. So I thought I'd give it a try because being an adult is very boring and there's just not enough fun in it. So why not try some new hobby, especially during these trying times. So I used to have an hour commute to my old job, and when I had that hour commute, I would listen to Jingle Jangle ASMR, read creepy stories, because I would take my commute in the dark in the morning on a very desolate road up to the country. And I thought it was the best. It was just, it was a mood. So I thought, why not just kick it off with something similar to that if I enjoyed it so much. Not that I don't know if this will be a reoccurring thing. So this book is The Book of the Bizarre, Freaky Facts and Strange Stories by Farla Ventura. The Book of the Bizarre is a veritable treasure trove of startling and stranger-than-fiction trivia that spans history, continents, even worlds. Never before have so many frightful facts been gathered together in one place, teeming with the strange, the shocking, and the downright fantastic. This book is designed for the depraved, outlandish enough for the eccentric and freaky enough for the hardest trivia nut. I got this book in high school. I have not read it since high school, nor did I read the whole book in high school, I'll be honest. I wasn't much of a reader. It's just kind of a cool, hey, look at this book that I've got. It's about creepy stuff. Isn't that neat? I'm such a well-rounded individual. Wow. So I'll first read Night of Terror, told by Joanne Warfield. My throat ached with an excruciating pounding. It was my heart. It was so loud that I was sure I would be detected in my third hiding place in the shed. Who was this madman stalking me with a gun? What did he want from me? Finally, catching my breath, I braved a peek around the corner of my shelter and decided to run for cover in the main house. I dashed through the clearing toward the house, slipped in through a side door, and slid the door and slid the lock shut as quietly as possible. I leaned back against the wall and slid down into a heap. Just as my heart began to slow down a bit, I heard a wild screeching of tires in the driveway. I rolled onto my knees and looked out the bottom of the window. Through a tear in the curtain, I could see the maniac in the driver's seat headed straight for the house at full speed. I leapt to my feet and ran out the back door toward the orchard. In a flash, I heard the car behind me. I turned the corner of the house, and the wheels screeched after me. My God, I thought this was it. I was going to die. Then I bolted upright in bed, stricken with terror. My heart was thundering. My heart was thundering in my chest and throat. It took me several minutes to realize that I was actually home and experiencing a nightmare. The fear lingered. I was so shaken by the experience that I made myself get up and walk around to stay awake. I turned on music and sang out loud to dispel the mood, so there would be no chance of re-entering what was a very real, frightening place. I knew this was no ordinary dream. It was 2 a.m., so I had some tea, and after an hour or so, somehow managed to get back to sleep. 2 days later, I was speaking with my mother, who lived several states away. She related to me a horrifying story about how she and my sister had been chased into hiding by my sister's crazy husband, who had threatened to shoot them. They frantically tried to find a place to hide. They hid in the shed, then in one of the cars, where they slept all night. They were truly terrified for their lives. This incident had happened at 2 a.m. on the very night of my own nightmare. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to be relaxing. Again, when I used to listen to ASMR creepy stories, I was on my way to work, trying to get into some mood. I wasn't really falling asleep to them. Lizzie Borden's 40 Wax. In August 1892, spinster Lizzie Borden was 32 years old, and her sister Emma was 40. The Borden family, including the girl's father, Andrew, and their stepmother, Abby, lived in a dark, cramped wooden house in a shabby neighborhood in Fall River, Massachusetts. The only running water came from the kitchen sink, and the only toilet was located in the cellar. They didn't even own a horse and buggy. Andrew Borden was ironically a retired undertaker and very rich, but he was also a miser. He had married Belaine Heavyset Abbey because he needed a wife and unpaid housekeeper. Emma and Lizzie refused to call her mother. Lizzie experienced some severe trauma in her childhood. For example, she loved animals and kept a coop of pigeons in the family's barn. When small boys started breaking into the barn, presumably to get all the pigeons, Andrew Borden's solution was to chop the heads of all the birds. Lizzie later recalled asking her father, "Where are their heads?" Perhaps her father's cruelty to her pigeons fueled Lizzie's own inherent cruelty, or perhaps the trauma of the pigeon experience merely hardened Lizzie's heart. For not long after, Lizzie chopped off the head of her stepmother's cat. The cat had pushed open the door to Lizzie's bedroom, where Lizzie had been entertaining her guests. Lizzie carried the cat downstairs, put its little head on the chopping block, and chopped it off. Is this appropriate? Am I gonna be demonetized? Not that this matters. Finally, Lizzie told her, "You go downstairs and you'll find your cat." On the morning of August 4th, 1892, while Andrew was checking on one of his businesses and Emma was away visiting friends, Lizzie told the Borden's maid, Bridget, that her stepmother had gone off to see a sick friend. Later in the morning, Andrew returned home carrying a small parcel wrapped in paper. It contained a broken lock that he had picked off the floor of one of the properties. Bridget opened the door for him, and she stood at the entrance letting him in. She heard a sound that was very unusual in the Borden's house. Lizzie Borden was standing at the top of the stairs, laughing out loud. Like a solicitous daughter, Lizzie helped her father relax on the dark horsehair sofa so that he could nap. She pulled off his shoes and folded his coat under his head for a pillow. She then told Bridget about a sale of goods at the local shop, perhaps to get her out of the house. Bridget said she'd go later and climbed the stairs to her little attic room to lie down for a while. She was roused shortly after 11 a.m. by Lizzie's shout, come down, Father's dead." Bridget and Lizzie quickly called for doctors and friends galore, and by 11:45, there was a crowd gathered outside the door. The doctor, after examining Andrew Borden's gory remains, asked for a sheet to cover the body. Lizzie answered, "Better get two." And where was Mrs. Borden? First, Lizzie repeated the story that her stepmother had gone to see a sick friend. Then she added that she might have heard Abby come in, and maybe she went upstairs. Bridget and another woman climbed the stairs to find Abby, with her head crushed in, lying in a pool of congealed blood on the floor of the upstairs guest bathroom. During the funeral, the police searched Lizzie's closet for a blood-stained dress to no avail. The following week, she was arrested for the murder of her father and stepmother. Although there was great evidence that could prove that Lizzie was the murderer, she was acquitted. The jury saw her as too much of a lady to have committed such a gruesome crime. After the trial, Lizzie and Emma, now rich, bought themselves a 14-room mansion in a neighborhood called The Hill, where the rest of the gentry lived. Though it was never proved, the rest of the gentry living up on the hill had to wonder, did Lizzie Borden kill her father by hitting him with an axe 10 times, and her stepmother 19? And could she have hit him hard enough to crush Abby Borden's skull, slice Andrew's eye in half, sever his nose, and render his face into an unrecognizable pulp? They never bothered to find out. They didn't care to socialize it with Lizzie Borden, not one bit. Lacking ladylike poison, Lizzie Borden did what every over-civilized, understated wasp is entirely capable of doing once we finally admit we're all mad as hell and aren't going to take it anymore. She went from Anglo to Saxon in a trice. Florence King. Okay. Florida's female serial killer. Eileen Warnes had a textbook serial killer childhood. Her father died in prison, and her 15-year-old mother abandoned her to her grandparents when she was an infant. Warnes had a baby herself at the age of 14. When her grandmother passed away and her hard-drinking grandfather started beating her and her brother, she left home, taking to the road and supporting herself as a prostitute. Warnes collected arrests for crimes such as driving drunk, assault, and passing bad checks, and she was known under a variety of different aliases. Her rough and tumble life was briefly brightened when she met Tyra Moore, a hotel maid at a gay bar in Daytona, Florida. The couple moved in together, and Warnes supported them by turning tricks. Things started to fall apart in the late 1980s when Moore's alcohol addiction got the best of her, and Warnes met Richard She was convicted of 6 counts of murder and sentenced to die, which she did, by lethal injection in 2002. The consequences of her crimes long survived their commission, and like the ghosts of the murdered, forever haunt the steps of the malefactor, Sir Walter Scott. So I think I'm going to end it there. Obviously, this is a really big book, and I could read further from this if I wanted to, or if anybody wanted me to. But, again, a test run. Is the creepiness really going to be comforting? Is it going to be a good ASMR standpoint? I don't know. I'm really just trying to test this audio, this setup, this whole thing. What is? It's kind of like I'm swimming. Ooh. Thank you for watching. I'll probably try this again.